Welcome back to Water the Possibilities in Your Pocket Change, your YouTube destination for coin collecting basics and numismatics of the 21st century. If you're new here, hit that like button and subscribe. If you're a returning viewer, leave a comment and share this video. We came up short of our goal of 750 subscribers by the 4th of July, but that's okay. Without failure, there would be no success. The new goal to reach 750 subscribers is August 1st. When we hit 750 subscribers, the historical water record indicates that it's time for another silver giveaway. So let's continue to make a splash with the algorithm by sharing this channel with your friends and family. Don't forget to hit that like button, and thanks for watching. In today's video, we'll be sending a big birthday shout out to America celebrating 250 years, and getting back to the roots of this country through the circulating coin designs of 2026. We will begin our journey with the Mayflower Compact Quarter. The Mayflower Compact is considered the predecessor to America's Declaration of Independence. The passengers aboard the Mayflower decided before they reached shore that they would govern themselves. Here is an excerpt from the Mayflower Compact. We do solemnly and mutually, in the presence of God and one another, covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic, for our better ordering and preservation, and furthermore of the ends aforesaid, and by virtue hereof do enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices from time to time, as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience. As time went on and the colonies grew, the colonists would become rebellious against the tyranny of British monarchy, and liberty would begin to emerge. Benjamin Franklin would publish his famous political cartoon of a severed snake titled Join or Die, and he is famously quoted for saying, "They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." And patriots like Patrick Henry would say, "Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." And statesman and founding father Alexander Hamilton would say, "There is a certain enthusiasm in liberty that makes human nature rise above itself in acts of bravery and heroism." The pursuit of freedom and liberty over the tyranny of the British monarchy would lead to the Revolutionary War. As General of the Continental Army, George Washington would say, "The time is near at hand which must determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves." And patriots like Captain John Parker, who served under Washington, would tell his men, "Stand your ground, don't fire unless fired upon, but if they mean to have a war, let it begin here." And Israel Putnam, who said, "Men, you are all marksmen. Don't one of you fire until you see the whites of their eyes, then fire low." Washington would warn his men to guard against the impostors of pretend patriotism, and that liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth. He would also say, "If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led, like sheep to the slaughter." The Continental Army did not fight the Revolutionary War alone. Besides help from France, George Washington and his men would also receive help from the Oneida Nation, which not only provided scouts and warriors to the Continental Army, but also delivered 600 bushels of life-saving white corn to Washington's starving troops during the brutal winter at Valley Forge. An Oneida woman named Polly Cooper remained with the army, teaching the revolutionaries how to prepare the grain to make it edible and serving as a cook. General Washington would say, "The Oneidas have manifested the strongest attachment to us throughout this dispute." And he would add, "Brothers, you have fought along with our warriors. You have helped them to take one large army and to recover two of our great towns, Boston and Philadelphia." In the midst of the war, the Declaration of Independence was primarily drafted by Thomas Jefferson. It established the moral and philosophical foundation of the nation. By proclaiming, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness." Thomas Jefferson, while reflecting on his political philosophy, would say, "When the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty." He also believed that our liberty depends on the freedom of the press, and that cannot be limited without being lost. And in a letter to James Madison, he would write, "I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery." The Declaration of Independence was signed July 4th, 1776. After the signing of the Declaration of Independence, a new document was needed that would lay the foundational framework of the American system of government. And James Madison would play a pivotal role in every major phase of its creation, including drafting the foundational framework, advocating for its ratification, and authoring the Bill of Rights, which would lead him to be known as the father of the Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land and provides a system of checks and balances so that one branch of government may not be more powerful than the others. The preamble to the Constitution states, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." One of James Madison's most famous and often cited quotes is as follows, "If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary." And on tyranny, he would say, "I believe there are more instances of the abridgment of the freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachments of those in power than by violent and sudden usurpations." And on constitutional interpretation, Madison would say, "Whatever veneration might be entertained for the body of men who formed our Constitution, the sense of that body could never be regarded as the oracular guide in expounding the Constitution, nothing but a dead letter, until life and validity were breathed into it by the voice of the people." This new nation of United States would prosper for many decades. However, division over the issue of slavery threatened to tear it apart. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln would win the presidential election as head of the anti-slavery Republican Party. He pledged to stop the expansion of slavery. The southern states felt their way of life was threatened. Citing these political threats, 11 southern states seceded to form the Confederate States of America. And in April of 1861, the Civil War would begin. In 1863, the Battle of Gettysburg would take place. The battle was a decisive victory for Union troops and is widely considered as the war's turning point. However, it resulted in the largest number of casualties of the entire conflict. 4 months later, in November of 1863, President Lincoln would deliver his iconic Gettysburg Address. It would begin with 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. And he would conclude his speech by saying that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause to which they gave their last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. While this speech was perhaps his most famous, he is also quoted as saying, "America will never be destroyed from the outside, and you can fool some of the people all of the time, and all of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time." President Lincoln would be assassinated just 5 short days after the Civil War ended in April of 1865. But he would not die in vain, as his vision for a free America would come to pass when the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which officially abolished slavery and involuntary servitude, was ratified in December of 1865, and a new nation was conceived in liberty. In 1886, France, who was our ally during the Revolutionary War, gifted the Statue of Liberty to the United States in celebration of the centennial of the U.S. Declaration of Independence to honor the abolition of slavery and commemorate the enduring alliance between the two nations. The pedestal on which she stands is adorned with a brass plaque and a poem titled "The New Colossus." The most famous lines read, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." The statue is not only a global symbol of hope for immigrants and refugees, it is also a symbol of enduring liberty. And true liberty can only be guarded with knowledge. So as we pass this torch to future generations of the next 250 years, let us remember what our founding fathers said about knowledge. George Washington would say on its necessity in a republic, quote, "A primary object should be the education of our youth in the science of government. In a republic, what species of knowledge can be equally important?" And on its societal value, he would say, "Knowledge is in every country the surest basis of public happiness." And Thomas Jefferson would say on freedom and ignorance, "If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be." And on knowledge in a democracy, he would say, "I think by far the most important bill in our whole code is that for the diffusion of knowledge among the people. No other sure foundation can be devised for the preservation of freedom and happiness. And on facts versus wisdom, Thomas Jefferson would say, the possession of facts is knowledge, the use of them is wisdom. And James Madison would say of knowledge on the necessity of an informed public, quote, a popular government without popular information or the means of acquiring it is but a prologue to a farce or a tragedy, or perhaps both. And on power and self-governance, Madison would say, knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and a people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives. And on liberty, he would say, the advancement and diffusion of knowledge is the only guardian of true liberty. And Abraham Lincoln would say of knowledge on continuous learning, I do not think much of a man who is not wiser today than he was yesterday. And on the goal of education, he would say, I desire to see the time when education, and by its means morality, sobriety, enterprise, and industry, shall become much more general than at present. And on guiding the future, Lincoln would say, teach the children so it will not be necessary to teach the adults. So as we celebrate the semi-quincentennial of this nation and reflect on 250 years of freedom and liberty, we must keep in mind the struggles and sacrifices made by our forefathers to establish this great nation, with the price of freedom being eternal vigilance and the cost of liberty perpetual alertness. As from time to time, the tree of liberty must be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants. It is its natural manure. And as a great patriot, statesman, and founding father, Samuel Adams would say, the liberties of our country, the freedom of our civil constitution, are worth defending at all hazards, and it is our duty to defend them against all attacks. We have received them as a fair inheritance from our worthy ancestors. They purchased them for us with toil and danger and expense of treasure and blood, and transmitted them to us with care and diligence. It will bring an everlasting mark of infamy on the present generation, enlightened as it is, if we should suffer them to be wrested from us by violence without a struggle, or be cheated out of them by the sacrifices of false and designing men. Happy 250th birthday to this great nation, and God bless America. If you learned something, hit that like button and share this video out. Leave a comment in the comment section below and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you will be notified of future videos. And always remember to ask yourself, what are the possibilities in your pocket change?